Smackdown vs. Raw 2006 General Manager Mode. You know what? You love it. You've spent hours upon hours immersed into it. But have you ever played it like this? I'm going head to head with one of the most well-known AI engines I'm sure you've heard of, ChatGPT. This engine will be making all of its roster decisions, from contracts to booking and even rivalries. This is not your standard playthrough. We'll be tested. It's beaten us before. Can we redeem ourselves and defeat ChatGPT in GM mode? Draft day, big day. We're running with Smackdown, and we've got the first pick. I'm going to turn the WWE landscape upside down by bringing Triple H to Smackdown as World Heavyweight Champion. Raw would respond with John Cena coming over to Monday nights, eventually chosen as WWE Champion. When the dust settled, SmackDown sported a roster that featured multiple threats to Triple H's title like Kurt Angle, Eddie Guerrero, and The Undertaker. The Cruiserweight and Tag Team division was well off with champions like RVD and Los Guerreros. But the mid-card was absolutely stacked with stars like JBL, United States Champion Booker T, Kane, Christian, and more. ChatGPT drafted a roster that was flooded with future Hall of Famers. Randy Orton, Rey Mysterio, Y2J, HBK, Edge, and Batista could all justifiably challenge for the WWE title, and that's not even the full list. Y2J was chosen as the Intercontinental Champion, while Rated RKO would be reunited and selected as Tag Team Champions, and Trish Stratus would start as the Women's Champion. Let's get into it. Shelton Benjamin aligned with Ric Flair and defeated WWE Champion John Cena in a singles match on Raw, setting him up as the #1 contender. Trish Stratus successfully defended her title against Stacy Keibler. Batista and Rey Mysterio defeat Rated RKO in a non-title match and make a challenge for Backlash. Big Show takes on Heidenreich accompanied by Snitsky in a hardcore match, and Big Show gets it done. Rey Mysterio and Batista challenge Randy Orton and Edge, the World Tag Team Champions, and Batista and Rey come out as new tag champs. Shawn Michaels challenging Chris Jericho for the Intercontinental Championship. Shawn Michaels gets close, but ultimately Chris Jericho comes out on top. Triple threat women's action: Stacy Keibler, Lita, and Trish Stratus. Trish Stratus pins Stacy Keibler and goes home still the women's champion. Shelton Benjamin alongside Ric Flair has got a big moment challenging John Cena for the WWE Championship. Ric Flair makes his presence known, and Shelton Benjamin is able to turn the tables on John Cena, but John Cena is able to withstand the offensive onslaught and ultimately defend his WWE Championship. RVD and Christian win qualifying matches to compete to face Booker T for the US title. Christian defeats RVD for the title match after using the ropes to secure a victory. RVD would interfere in Christian's title opportunity, allowing Booker T to secure the victory. Big triple threat over on SmackDown between The Undertaker, Kurt Angle, and JBL is able to walk away the new #1 contender for Triple H's title. Daivari and Muhammad Hassan challenged Los Guerreros for the WWE Tag Team titles, and Eddie Guerrero is able to pick up the victory through some rather nefarious tactics. Chris Benoit and Kane have got a bitter grudge match, and it gets brutal and real physical. Ultimately, Chris Benoit is able to do enough damage to take down the Big Red Machine. Triple threat for the United States Championship: Rob Van Dam, Christian the Challengers taking on Booker T. Booker T would be able to successfully defend in this hectic match. The Undertaker taking on Kurt Angle. This match would determine Triple H's next challenger, and The Undertaker would deliver a devastating tombstone piledriver to the gold medalist. JBL and Triple H locked in a cage, Triple H hitting the pedigree and securing his World Heavyweight Championship to end the evening. Chris Jericho defends his Intercontinental Championship against Shelton Benjamin on an episode of Raw, and Shelton Benjamin, under the tutelage of the Nature Boy, is able to become an Intercontinental Champion. Lita became the new Women's Champion by winning an elimination Fatal 4-Way match. Shawn Michaels earned the #1 contendership to face John Cena at Vengeance after a big victory on Raw. Rated RKO, Randy Orton, and Edge using their rematch to challenge for the World Tag Team Champions Rey Mysterio and Batista, and we would see Rated RKO regain their championships. We've got Eugene taking on an embarrassed Chris Masters looking for some redemption. Chris Masters does just that and embarrasses Eugene on an even bigger stage. Trish Stratus challenging Lita in a one-on-one match for the Women's Championship, and Lita is able to hit a moonsault and walk away still champion. William Regal inserting himself into the Intercontinental title picture alongside Chris Jericho facing Shelton Benjamin, and we would see another former champion recapture their gold. Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid, taking on the WWE Champion John Cena in a big one-on-one contest. John Cena is able to retain. Christian cost Rob Van Dam his Cruiserweight Championship in a match against Paul London, and Christian would then capture the Cruiserweight title from Paul London a few weeks later. Kurt Angle beats Booker T for the US title on an episode of Smackdown, and Chavo Guerrero gets injured, leaving him out of action, vacating the tag team titles. Kurt Angle saves Eddie Guerrero from a 2-on-1 beatdown from La Resistance. Angle and Guerrero would then team together to become the new tag team champions. The Undertaker has made his intentions clear. He is coming after Triple H. The Great American Bash would open up with Cruiserweight competition, a ladder match for the title. Rob Van Dam taking on the champion Christian. This was a hellacious ladder match, both men putting their bodies on the line and punishing the other. In the end, it was Christian who was able to come down with the Cruiserweight Championship and remain champion. Kurt Angle and Eddie Guerrero successfully defend the WWE Tag Team titles against La Resistance. The man full of toothless aggression, Chris Benoit, taking on JBL, John Bradshaw Layfield. JBL would regret coming to this event, and Chris Benoit would walk away the victor. The United States Championship was successfully defended against Booker T and Carlito by Kurt Angle in his second match of the evening. It's time for the main event of the night. The Dead Man, The Undertaker, taking on the World Heavyweight Champion, The Game, Triple H. In a 5-star match, The Undertaker is able to defeat Triple H and become the new World Heavyweight Champion. Following Triple H's loss at SummerSlam, The Game was absolutely fuming with the results. He took out those frustrations on the new World Heavyweight Champion and his main target, The Undertaker. Lita defended her Women's Championship yet again against Stacy Keibler and Tori Wilson. Kurt Angle would find himself at the end of a 2-on-1 beatdown. Eddie Guerrero would come and fend off La Resistance, but he would also ask Kurt Angle for a US title match at SummerSlam. Shelton Benjamin, Rey Mysterio, Chris Masters, and Chris Jericho for the Intercontinental Championship in a fatal 4-way match. This one was all over the place, and Rey Mysterio seemed to really have himself an opportunity, but Chris Jericho was able to make Chris Masters submit before Rey could secure the pinfall victory. Chris Benoit, Kane, and Booker T would win a 6-man tag team match against JBL, Orlando Jordan, and Christian. ChatGPT dictates tag team action for the ladies at SummerSlam. Trish Stratus and Tori Wilson have turned heel on the women's division, and they pick up a victory over Stacy and Lita. Eddie Guerrero taking on Kurt Angle, his tag team partner, in a highly anticipated United States Championship match. And Eddie Guerrero would defeat his friend at SummerSlam. 5-man WWE Championship match, elimination style format. Shawn Michaels, Big Show, Edge, Randy Orton, and John Cena. It came down to Big Show and John Cena, but Cena is able to successfully defend the WWE Championship, further solidifying his super status. It's time for The Undertaker to get some payback on Triple H for that backstage attack in this Hell in a Cell match for the World Heavyweight Championship. Triple H was a fighter. He wouldn't stay down for long until The Undertaker threw the game off of the cage, and we may never see this man ever again. The Undertaker, Big Evil, remaining the World Heavyweight Champion. Thank you to those who participated in the poll, subsequently making my life fucking terrible for the post-SummerSlam shakeup. We decided to replace 5 current roster members with free agents, meaning we ended up dropping studs like Chris Benoit, Booker T, Kane, and Christian, only to pick up Spike Dudley, Charlie Haas, and fucking Joey Giovanni. Although we did swap Rivalry for the Hurricane, I'm not mad about that one. Raw didn't make it out unscathed either, as they had to drop Edge, Rene Dupree, Heidenreich, Eugene, and the Heartbreak Kid for Michelle McCool, Mark Jindrak, Scotty 2 Hotty, Tajiri, and Steven Richards. The free agency pool will open up after respective brands' next pay-per-view, and don't forget to hit that like button if you're enjoying the video. Thanks! Tori Wilson became the new women's champion after defeating Lita thanks to a little help from Trish Stratus. And Batista would shockingly become the new WWE champion on an episode of Raw after defeating John Cena. Chris Masters and new superstar Mark Jindrak made their way into the tag team title picture, although Batista and Rey Mysterio would come out on top. Accompanied by Lita, Michelle McCool would challenge for the Women's Championship against Tori Wilson, accompanied by Trish Stratus. The longtime veteran would be able to stay the Women's Champion in this matchup. Ric Flair, without Shelton Benjamin, challenging Y2J for the Intercontinental title, and quite honestly, this match could have been match of the night because these two were going at it. The Nature Boy and Chris Jericho Y2J, neither man was given an inch, but something eventually had to give, and Y2J was able to come away with the victory. Singles action between Shelton Benjamin and Randy Orton. Off the back of a T-bone suplex, Shelton Benjamin is able to come away with the victory. Rey Mysterio, John Cena, and Batista in a triple threat match for the WWE Championship. This match would have been fun to see in 2005, each man hitting some signature offense and gaining momentum, but ultimately it would be the Animal to successfully retain his WWE title. The Hurricane claims the vacant Cruiserweight title after Christian was shipped over to free agency. Eddie Guerrero decides to stay tagging with Kurt Angle despite Chavo's return to action and ends up defending the tag titles against Chavito. Rob Van Dam with a big victory, inserting himself into the title picture. Triple H would not take kindly to that and respond rather aggressively, aiming to keep RVD out of the picture. Paul London would challenge the new Cruiserweight champion, the Hurricane. After exciting Cruiserweight action, Paul London would come away on top, the new Cruiserweight champion. Christy Hemme would defeat Joey Giovanni in a Fulfill Your Fantasy match. Thank God they took this out of the game. Chavo Guerrero, the disgruntled nephew, challenging his uncle Eddie Guerrero for the United States Championship. Chavito had his moments, but Eddie was able to come away with a victory, pulling a fast one over his nephew. The World Heavyweight Championship was up for grabs in this main event, a fatal four-way match between John Bradshaw Layfield, Rob Van Dam, Triple H, and The Undertaker. And despite the odds stacked against him, it would be the dead man to retain his world title. After completing Unforgiven, ChatGPT was eligible to sign some of the hot free agents sitting in free agency, and they did just that, doing some roster management and picking up some big names like Edge, Shawn Michaels, Christian, and Booker T. And these stars were quick to make an impact, as Edge and Christian were reunited and challenged Batista and Rey Mysterio for the tag team titles. And Edge and Christian waste no time in regaining the World Tag Team titles together. Ric Flair go on one-on-one with his former protege, Shelton Benjamin, and Shelton Benjamin is able to come out on top after a T-bone suplex. Randy Orton, Shawn Michaels, and Chris Jericho in triple threat action for the Intercontinental Championship, and Randy Orton comes out on top. Trish Stratus challenging Tori Wilson, and Trish would regain her women's title after turning on Tori. Booker T would make his return back to Raw in fashion after defeating Big Show in a steel cage match. John Cena challenges Batista in a hardcore match, one-on-one for the WWE Championship. It was brutal, but Big Match John was able to get it done. Kurt Angle would pick up a huge victory on Smackdown. This would give him that World Heavyweight Championship match he's been waiting for. And Chris Jericho would win the #1 contendership to face John Cena. Chris Benoit challenging Latino Heat Eddie Guerrero one-on-one for the United States title, and an absolute slobber knocker, Eddie Guerrero picks up the victory, though it was not without the assistance of his tag team partner Kurt Angle. Shelton Benjamin coming to challenge Randy Orton one-on-one for that Intercontinental title. Randy Orton with an RKO out of nowhere successfully retains his title. The Undertaker defends his World Heavyweight Championship against the Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle. It was a tight match, but Eddie Guerrero comes out to assist Kurt Angle, inadvertently doing more damage, costing Kurt Angle the match. John Cena and Chris Jericho going one-on-one. There's a whole lot of allegations about Chris Jericho online right now, but there's one thing that's certain. He has been putting on some bangers in this general manager mode as this video game character. And he and John Cena do not disappoint here at Survivor Series as they put on a clinic. But John Cena is ultimately able to retain his WWE Championship. Interbranded match, ChatGPT choosing Batista, we're choosing Triple H, buried alive match, and Triple H gives that work to Batista, securing the victory for Smackdown. Post-Survivor Series, it's real close, neck and neck, a difference of 30,000 fans. It's gone back and forth, but there's gonna be a victor at the end of this thing. Orlando Jordan challenges Eddie Guerrero for the US title the same night as a scheduled tag title defense. Eddie takes the singles match, leaving Kurt Angle left to defend in a handicap situation. Angle puts up a great fight, but is unable to overcome the numbers of La Resistance. Eddie's successful title defense would subsequently earn him a title match with The Undertaker at Armageddon. Chavo Guerrero, Rob Van Dam, and the Cruiserweight Champion Paul London all competed in a triple threat tables, ladders, and chairs match, and this thing was chaotic, it was painful, but Chavo was able to take advantage and walk away the new champion. La Resistance successfully defending their tag team titles against the Bashams and new acquisitions William Regal and Eugene. Eddie Guerrero successfully defending his US title in the first of 2 matches for him tonight. Rene Dupree was able to defeat Kane after he rejoins La Resistance. Chris Benoit would defeat Triple H in one-on-one action, and in the main event, Eddie Guerrero with his shot at the World Heavyweight Championship going up against The Undertaker one-on-one. But Kurt Angle stabs Eddie Guerrero in the back, betraying his friend, and The Undertaker would retain his title. Blockbuster news, we made a trade. Christy Hemme and Triple H for Big Show and Shelton Benjamin. An overall popularity swap of 145 for 139, so I think it's fair. And Triple H would instantly earn a title match upon his return to Raw after defeating Chris Jericho and Batista. At New Year's Revolution, Booker T, Rey Mysterio, Christian, and Randy Orton would compete in a gauntlet match according to ChatGPT, where Randy Orton would emerge victorious. Women's Championship match, we've got Lita back in the title picture, along with Christy Hemme taking on Trish Stratus in a triple threat match, and Christy Hemme would shock the world. Shawn Michaels taking on Ric Flair in one-on-one competition, and it's safe to say Shawn Michaels is happy to be back on Raw. The King of Kings would once again become champion after winning an Elimination Chamber match to bring the WWE into a new year. Team Angle would help Shelton Benjamin defeat Eddie Guerrero for the United States title. Christy Hemme defending her women's title at the Royal Rumble. Unfortunately, her title reign would not last long. Chris Benoit challenging Shelton Benjamin for the United States Championship. Unfortunately, in this match, Shelton Benjamin would be injured, would be sidelined for 13 weeks. John Cena would attempt to regain his WWE Championship against Triple H in a TLC match. Unfortunately for Cena, he would come up short. The Undertaker finds himself once again defending the World Heavyweight Championship against Kurt Angle in a one-on-one match. This time, Kurt Angle holds nothing back and is able to become the new World Champion. It's time for the Royal Rumble. Entries number 1 and 2, Charlie Haas and Robert Conway. Not the most exciting 2, but we had an exciting end with 2 previous Royal Rumble winners. But it would be Chris Benoit locking himself in for a WrestleMania title match. Eugene and William Regal would become new tag team champions after they defeated La Resistance. Rob Van Dam regains the Cruiserweight Championship in a no DQ match against Chavito. Chris Benoit would defend his United States Championship in a battle royal against 5 other competitors that would see Paul London coming out on top. the new champion. Kurt Angle was able to find a way out from The Undertaker's grasp and defeat the Dead Man in a steel cage match to keep the World Heavyweight title. WrestleMania Smackdown vs. Raw tournament kicked off with Rob Van Dam defeating Edge in a steel cage match, scoring a point for Smackdown early. We would then see an 85 popularity Paul London take on a 92 popularity Christian, where Christian would score a point for Raw, tying it up 1-1. In the rubber match, SmackDown's The Undertaker going up against Raw's Chris Jericho. And you know it was The Undertaker at WrestleMania, folks. This man wasted no time in delivering the pain and securing that victory for SmackDown. WWE Championship match. It feels a little bit like 2000 because we got a fatal 4-way for the WWE title. John Cena, the former champion, Randy Orton, the young gun, Chris Benoit, the Royal Rumble winner, and Triple H, the champion. Momentum swang in every direction in this match. It could have gone in any way, but ultimately we saw Chris Benoit apply the crippler crossface and secure his WWE Championship. World Heavyweight Championship match. The most personal match in this entire video. The culmination of the biggest rivalry in this entire year. Eddie Guerrero, Kurt Angle, former friends, former tag team champions, now enemies. They put on an absolute banger in this WrestleMania main event, and they deserved every spotlight that the Showcase of Immortals had. Both men relentless with one another. It wasn't just about the championship, it had become personal. They wanted to hurt one another. Kurt Angle had betrayed Eddie Guerrero, and Eddie Guerrero had costed Kurt Angle a shot at the World Heavyweight title earlier in the year, and neither one was holding anything back. But ultimately, when the dust had settled, it was Eddie Guerrero, Latino Heat, walking away the victor in this last man standing match. And with WrestleMania behind us, there is nothing left to do but crown the victor, the general manager of the year, and this time it is SmackDown. Team Human, we come away with the victory, and we can in fact defeat ChatGPT in GM mode. AI has made its presence felt in nearly every aspect of life nowadays. While the total impact of that is yet to be determined, today I'm using it to my advantage. I'm going to take control of the Raw brand and compete head to head with one of the most intuitive AI engines available to casual folk, ChatGPT, and find out, can ChatGPT beat me in GM mode? Now, this isn't your standard solo playthrough. I'm going to be addressing every single decision to be made during this mode, present it to the AI, and allow ChatGPT to make its own decision regarding its own brand, and the results may actually shock you. Contender Booker T would attack John Cena in the parking lot and then later on defeat him in a steel cage match on Raw, cementing his #1 contendership for Backlash. Mickie James would surprise the women's champion Lita a week before Backlash and win the women's title. To open up Backlash, we've got William Regal taking on Mr. Kennedy for the heart of Candice Michelle. Mr. Kennedy would go on to win this match. D-Generation X, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels taking on the tag team champions Lance Cade and Trevor Murdoch. The titles would change hands after a decisive victory by DX. The Animal Batista found himself in a handicap match going up against Galito and Chris Masters. The numbers game ended up being too much for the Animal, and the conniving duo was able to get away with a victory. Intercontinental Championship action, Rob Van Dam taking on champion Shelton Benjamin in a tables, ladders, and chairs match, which Rob Van Dam would become the new champion after an intense match. In the main event, Booker T, John Cena, WWE Championship, Booker T would surprisingly unseat John Cena as the WWE Champion. As the night ends, Raw heads into a different direction. Matt Hardy would unsuccessfully defend his United States Championship on an episode of Smackdown, losing to JBL. Kurt Angle and Randy Orton would begin a rivalry. Randy Orton would suffer a loss in a submission match, but challenge Kurt Angle one-on-one at Judgment Day. Cruiserweight Championship opening up at Judgment Day. ChatGPT's first pay-per-view, Chavo Guerrero taking on Rey Mysterio for the Cruiserweight title, and Rey Mysterio successfully defends his championship. Matt Hardy issued his rematch at Judgment Day but fell short as JBL successfully defended his United States Championship. This time, in a tables match, Randy Orton would finally get his chance to prove himself and his shot at Kurt Angle. One-on-one, no disqualifications. However, Kurt Angle once again came out of this match victorious. In the main event, Chris Benoit would go on to challenge Edge for the World Heavyweight Championship. Edge was able to hang on, hit the execution, and defend that World Heavyweight Championship successfully. Shelton Benjamin would use his rematch for the Intercontinental Championship and win the title back against Rob Van Dam. Carlito and Chris Masters would challenge D-Generation X for a shot at the World Tag Team titles, but DX would stand tall. And a triple threat was announced for the WWE Championship between John Cena, Batista, and Booker T. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button as we make that push up to 1,000. And let me know in the comments how you feel about this kind of content. If we can get this video up to 200 likes, we'll do something similar to this in the future. The first match of Vengeance would see Mickie James defend her women's championship against former champion Lita. After a huge moonsault, Lita would regain her women's championship. A big fatal four-way match for the Intercontinental Championship was announced. Mr. Kennedy, Rob Van Dam, Ric Flair, and Shelton Benjamin would all compete for the Intercontinental title, but Rob Van Dam would emerge victorious and once again become Intercontinental Champion. DX once again defended their World Tag Team Championships against Carlito and Chris Masters. This time, the outcome was no different than the first. DX still champs. Main event time here at Vengeance. WWE Championship Triple Threat. Batista, John Cena, and Booker T. Booker T somehow scrapes by the skin of his teeth and retains the WWE Championship, capitalizing after Batista hits a Batista bomb on John Cena. Over on Smackdown, Johnny Nitro defeated JBL in a ladder match to gain the United States Championship, and Rey Mysterio would successfully defend his Cruiserweight Championship against Kid Cash. However, Rey Mysterio would be injured for 6 weeks and be sidelined and out of action. This was a decision that ChatGPT had to make. Are they going to vacate the championship? The need for an active champion dictates that ChatGPT vacates the Cruiserweight Championship, and Super Crazy would go on to win that vacant Cruiserweight Championship. Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit win the WWE Tag Team Championships over Kane and The Big Show. But the love, hugs, and smiles would not last long as Randy Orton attacked Chris Benoit in a bar that same evening, challenging him to a match at the Great American Bash. The Great American Bash featured Chris Benoit and Kurt Angle pulling double duty, first defending their tag team championships against Kane and Big Show, successfully retaining the straps. JBL and Mick Foley would challenge Johnny Nitro in a triple threat for the United States Championship. Johnny Nitro successfully defends the United States Championship after pinning Mick Foley. Chris Benoit's got his second match coming up against the legend killer Randy Orton. Chris Benoit locks in the crippler crossface and forces Randy Orton to submit. Big grudge match coming up in this next one. Bobby Lashley, Umaga. Last man standing. Bobby Lashley able to hit a multitude of spears and of course a Dominator to leave Umaga down for the 10 count. Main event, Kurt Angle in his second match going up against Edge, challenging for the World Heavyweight Championship. Edge hitting Kurt Angle with a spear. Unfortunately, it's not enough for him, so he has to come back and hit him with an execution before pinning Kurt Angle and successfully retaining the World Heavyweight Championship. Triple H and Shawn Michaels lost the World Tag Team Championships after Triple H tapped out to Nature Boy's figure four leg lock. Mark Henry would also become the Intercontinental Champion after defeating Rob Van Dam and Carlito in a triple threat match. Furious with his partner, Triple H attacks Shawn Michaels backstage, making him pay for not having his back and their loss of the tag team titles. And the hot potato that is the Women's Championship would once again bounce from Lita to Mickie James on a weekly episode of Raw. As far as on the Smackdown end, ChatGPT had a decision to make with one of their up-and-coming contenders. However, they were rather hesitant to truly make that decision, so we had to guide him a little bit, but we ended up getting there. The Brothers of Destruction, Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit, and Mick Foley and JBL. The Brothers of Destruction walk out of SummerSlam as tag team champions. John Cena outlasts 5 other superstars in an over-the-top rope battle royal to become the new Intercontinental Champion. Randy Orton's been busy so far this year. He's got a United States Championship matchup against Johnny Nitro, and in honor of the return of the Viper, just last weekend at Survivor Series War Games, Randy Orton hits an RKO and wins the United States Championship over Johnny Nitro. WWE Championship match, Batista, the #1 contender, challenging the champion Booker T in a first blood match. It could go either way, but Batista is the one to bust Booker T open and become the new WWE Champion. Bobby Lashley looking to be the one to dethrone Edge from the World Heavyweight Championship, and Lashley is able to do just that and become the new champion. And in the main event, no championships involved at all, just bitter feelings between Shawn Michaels and Triple H. Hell in a Cell, and the crowd is absolutely sick, but Triple H picks up the victory over the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels in the Hell in a Cell match. Now, since we do have SummerSlam in the rearview mirror, it's a good time to check our progress, our fan support. Smackdown at 4.4 million. It's kind of been all over the place with the booking, but we gotta have a chat with ChatGPT. We had a good talk with ChatGPT, and I think they're gonna improve things going forward. In the spirit of shaking things up, we're going to add one legendary superstar to each roster now that we've got SummerSlam in the rearview mirror. And to no surprise, the Great One has been selected. You can't go wrong with quite the list that we've got in this game. The Rock goes to SmackDown, and Raw's gonna pick up Eddie Guerrero, Latino Heat. Mr. Kennedy has broke his leg, he is no Carlito, he's not going to continue to compete, so the tag team championships are going to be vacated. And on Eddie Guerrero's first night here on Raw, the Nature Boy, no longer tag team champion, takes an interest into Eddie Guerrero, convinces him to compete for the tag team titles, which they are unsuccessful. Ric Flair very unhappy, but Chris Masters and Carlito become the new tag team champions. The Night of Unforgiven. Ric Flair, I don't know what that is. In an attempt to take Eddie Guerrero out, Ric Flair ends up being the one taken out. Triple threat, Lita, Trish Stratus, and Mickie James for the Women's Championship. Lita once again becoming Women's Champion. Triple H, Batista, WWE Championship. The Animal Batista still the champion. Eddie Guerrero goes on to win the Elimination Chamber this evening and punches his ticket into the World Championship match at the next pay-per-view. Rey Mysterio would return and reclaim the Cruiserweight Championship after a victory over Super Crazy, and The Rock would make his first appearance on Smackdown. Once again, it was Cruiserweight action to open up the show. Rey Mysterio successfully defending his newly won Cruiserweight Championship against Chavo Guerrero once again. The United States Championship was up for grabs in a triple threat between the Big Show, Johnny Nitro, and champion Randy Orton. Big Show dominated the match, and Randy Orton could not snake his way into a victory, crowning a new United States champion. In tag team action, we saw the Brothers of Destruction face what could be their most intimidating foes yet, the team of Matt Hardy and Daivari. It was quite the championship scare, but the Brothers of Destruction were able to defend their championship successfully. It was the first match since the return of the Great One, The Rock, taking on JBL in this pay-per-view matchup. The Rock wasted no time electrifying the crowd and showing the WWE Universe what they've been missing, as The Rock is able to win his first match back on the roster. Big Belt Bobby defending his World Heavyweight Championship for the first time against three very viable competitors, Chris Benoit, Kurt Angle, and Edge. However, it was the World Heavyweight Champion who was able to walk out victorious. Unhappy with his own shortcomings as well as Eddie Guerrero's status as #1 contender, Triple H attacked Latino Heat backstage. in an attempt to eliminate any possible contenders other than he. After that didn't work, Triple H was able to pick up a pinfall victory over the WWE Champion in a tag team match alongside Ric Flair, inserting him into the title picture heading into Taboo Tuesday. Tag Team Championship match, Carlito and Chris Masters, the champions, defending up against Shelton Benjamin and the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels. HBK and Benjamin had this match in the bag, but Carlito and Masters had to take the coward's way out and disqualify themselves intentionally to hang on to the championships. Mickie James and Lita would square off for what would be the last time, regardless of the victor. Lita would be able to walk out of this one successfully defending her title, no longer having to worry about dealing with Mickie James. Rob Van Dam and John Cena capped off an intense rivalry revolving around the Intercontinental Championship, going one-on-one, no special stipulations, and John Cena is able to outlast his opponent and able to hang on just longer than RVD himself to retain the Intercontinental title. Triple H has once again got a shot at the WWE Championship, but he's got to get through Eddie Guerrero and the Animal Batista to take home the gold. A new WWE Champion is crowned, but it's not Triple H. It is Latino Heat, Eddie Guerrero, reigning victorious over the two to end out the evening. Going straight into Survivor Series, the Randy Orton-Kurt Angle rivalry was such a thriller ChatGPT had to book it twice. This time ending in a steel cage match, but with the same result, Kurt Angle standing tall over Randy Orton. The team of Carlito and Chris Masters were once again tasked to defend their tag team titles against Ric Flair and Ken Kennedy. And now that that broken leg is all healed up, the tag team championship reign of Kennedy and Flair can resume. For the World Heavyweight Championship, we've got The Rock taking on Bobby Lashley in a last man standing match, in which the Great One unleashing an electrifying moveset and becoming the World Heavyweight Champion, conquering Big Belt Bobby. Eddie Guerrero is set to defend his WWE Championship for the first time against the former champion, the Animal, Batista. A high-intensity match, and Latino Heat will continue his reign into the winter. We're going to face up one superstar from each brand in a Hell in a Cell match. Raw's going to pick Triple H, and ChatGPT, of course, is going to select The Undertaker. And it didn't disappoint. And we saw The Undertaker deliver the Tombstone Piledriver onto the Game, who is not having himself a good year so far. The United States Champion Big Show would successfully defend his title in a gauntlet match according to ChatGPT up against Umaga, Mick Foley, and JBL. Rey Mysterio and Johnny Nitro would cap off a rivalry, which also saw Johnny Nitro's hand raised in victory at the end. The Brothers of Destruction faced another formidable tag team, this time Randy Orton and Chris Benoit, and it doesn't seem to matter who the team is, the Brothers of Destruction are gonna get it done and successfully defend their tag team titles. Main event, Kurt Angle, The Rock, buried alive match so we get no visuals, but we also get a new World Heavyweight Champion in Kurt Angle. The opening match of New Year's Revolution consists of Batista and Rob Van Dam, two former champions that failed to regain their titles. After a grueling steel cage match, the Animal Batista emerges victorious, hoping to get back on track. Trish Stratus gets her share of the Women's Championship in this GM mode after defeating Lita in an ultimate submission match. John Cena was once again up against the odds when defending his Intercontinental Championship as he defended against Ken Kennedy and Shelton Benjamin, once again successfully retaining his title. In a match that I would pay most of my life savings to see, we've got Shawn Michaels taking on Eddie Guerrero for the WWE Championship. In what would have been an absolutely awesome match, Eddie Guerrero picks up the victory and defends the championship successfully. The Royal Rumble opened up with a steel cage match between the Deadman and JBL. Shawn Michaels and Triple H finally laid their issues to rest in a last man standing match that saw Shawn Michaels with his hand raised in victory. Bobby Lashley worked his way back into the title picture and is looking to regain that big gold belt. Unfortunately, Kurt Angle had other plans and would go on to successfully defend his world championship. John Cena defeated Eddie Guerrero to become not only the Intercontinental Champion, but also the WWE Champion on the road to WrestleMania. But the road to WrestleMania cannot begin until a victor of the Royal Rumble is crowned, starting with Kane and Matt Hardy as entrants number 1 and 2, going all the way down to the sole survivor, Chris Benoit, the winner of the Royal Rumble, punching his ticket into the main event of WrestleMania and a World Championship opportunity. Coming back to the fan support, we see Raw. We're able to separate the gap by a wide margin, but SmackDown stepped their game up. ChatGPT really reacted after we had that conversation with them a few months back, and it's getting real close. Starting off with Big Show defending his United States Championship against Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley would go on to spear Big Show through a table here in this no DQ match, and Bobby Lashley would walk away as the new United States Champion. Huge match going back to the Attitude Era here as we have The Rock taking on Mick Foley in a no DQ match. And The Rock has not held any punches outside of that Buried Alive match. The Rock is undefeated here in this GM mode. Picks up the victory up against Mick Foley. And in the main event of the evening, the World Heavyweight Champion Kurt Angle and the Royal Rumble winner Chris Benoit regained the Tag Team Championships, closing out the night with WrestleMania opponents locked arms as Tag Team Champions. Since we do have such a limited WrestleMania card, we've got Trish Stratus and Lita squaring off for the last time to determine who is the true undisputed women's champion, and Trish Stratus victorious. Ever since the Royal Rumble, Eddie Guerrero has proved himself as a fighting Intercontinental Champion. He's knocked down anybody that has came up in front of him. During a match with Booker T, right before Eddie Guerrero was about to secure his victory, John Cena came out, interrupted and interfered in his match, allowing Booker T to capitalize and become the new Intercontinental Champion, setting the stage for Eddie Guerrero and John Cena at WrestleMania. On the SmackDown side of things, we had the World Heavyweight Champion Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit continuing to work together, defending their championships against the likes of the Mexicools, as well as Johnny Nitro and Joey Mercury. You think we're just going to do a build to WrestleMania in 2006 without putting Undertaker's streak on the line? Get real. We've got Triple H coming over from Raw, coming face to face with The Undertaker, extending the challenge at WrestleMania. No answer from the dead man, so Triple H comes back to SmackDown the following week, but gets ignored. Tired of being ignored, Triple H attacks The Undertaker backstage, sending his challenge a little bit more direct. Following a victory on SmackDown, The Undertaker makes an appearance and confronts Triple H, giving him his answer. WrestleMania 22, we've got a couple tournament-style SmackDown vs. Raw matches. First one of the night, The Rock taking on Shelton Benjamin in a steel cage match. And just like many others before him, Shelton Benjamin puts up a valiant effort, but The Rock too electrifying to handle, and The Rock picks up the victory. The Undertaker, Triple H. Undefeated streak on the line. Triple H has got nothing to lose, meaning there's no man more dangerous. Triple H actually with the upper hand throughout most of this match, hitting the pedigree, putting the nail in the coffin on Undertaker's streak. Not so fast. Undertaker hitting the tombstone pile driver, getting the victory, and that streak remains alive. Eddie Guerrero, John Cena, WWE Championship. John Cena started out this year as the WWE Champion, went on quite a losing streak, had to rebuild himself back up through the Intercontinental Division, has now once again got himself in the main event of WrestleMania. But Eddie Guerrero is not going to go down as easy as the others have. The valiant spirit of Eddie Guerrero brings him to victory at WrestleMania, regaining the WWE Championship in what would have been a truly dream match at this point of their careers. And in the main event of WrestleMania, the World Heavyweight Championship Tag Team Champions Chris Benoit and Kurt Angle going up against one another, and in an absolute banger of a match, Kurt Angle pulls out the stops to retain the championship and walk out of WrestleMania still the World Heavyweight Champion. And with that ending to WrestleMania, it is time to crown the General Manager of the Year and find out if we can beat ChatGPT in GM mode.
I give you the General Manager of the Year. Congratulations on a job well done.
I'm not gonna lie, this loss does sting a little bit, but there's no doubt General Manager mode continues to be one of the most endearing aspects within the Smackdown vs. Raw game series. However, this game mode is receiving a modern twist, ChatGPT. I'm going to implement the AI engine into this game mode by assigning the responsibility of booking, roster management, and show production to ChatGPT. We've had a couple attempts at this already in the past, and we are tied 1-1. We're going to take the reins of SmackDown and compete against Raw and ECW. Raw loaded up with a nice roster, and ChatGPT truly drafted a roster ECW extremists could be proud of. This is the newest way to play your favorite game mode from the past, and it's time we find out if we could defeat not one, but two other general managers controlled by ChatGPT. Over on ECW, there was a fatal four-way to determine the #1 contender for the ECW title. This match was won by The Undertaker. The following week, Mick Foley and ECW champion Terry Funk would defeat The Undertaker in a handicap match. The first pay-per-view in this general manager mode, Elijah Burke and Ric Flair going one-on-one. Ric Flair was growing tired of Elijah Burke's entitled attitude, thus challenging him here. Burke may have a bad attitude, but he was able to back it up and unfortunately justify some of his cockiness. Sabu had invited Marcus Corvan into a hardcore match after taking losses in standard competition throughout the weeks leading up. Sabu managed to send Corvan through a table and walk away victorious. Snitsky and Mark Henry found themselves in a last man standing match where the big ugly bastard Snitsky stands tall and leaves Henry down for the 10 count. In the first pay-per-view main event for ECW, The Undertaker challenged Terry Funk for the ECW title in a hardcore contest. Terry Funk isn't afraid of anybody, even someone with the aura of the dead man. Ultimately, a new ECW champion was crowned, and The Undertaker has a new accomplishment to notch onto his belt. Over on Raw, MVP and Matt Hardy brawl in a parking lot after MVP bashes the Hardy Boys. Umaga attacks CM Punk following a victory on Raw. And Chris Jericho, that's right, defends his Intercontinental title against William Regal in a submission match leading up to his title match at Backlash. And I think it's necessary to quickly touch on some of the guidelines in place. Given the dynamic of raising popularity throughout the week that is present in SmackDown vs. Raw 2008, a system had to be established to ensure an optimal level playing field. All three brands were assigned 3 created wrestlers each to compensate for the ailing roster in this game. Only 2 activities per week could be used to raise popularity, and they can only be used on the created wrestlers who start with a base popularity of 20 by default. Back to the action. Opening up Backlash, Matt and Jeff Hardy aim to take down MVP and his mystery partner, the Boogeyman. While this may be one of the strangest pairings possible, the Boogeyman is known to possess serious power, and MVP wasn't about to walk into this match alone. However, even the Boogeyman couldn't keep the Hardys from getting a measure of revenge on MVP. Melina challenged Mickie James for the Women's Championship, however she was unsuccessful. Crime Time defends the World Tag Team titles against Kane and Big Show. The monstrous tag team displayed their power as they became new champions. CM Punk and Umaga are seeking to make an impact on one another in this Falls Count Anywhere grudge match. While Umaga had been consistently coming at CM Punk over the past few weeks, Punk never backed down at any point. There wasn't going to be anything to get in between these two in this night, and the Samoan Bulldozer pulled out the victory. In the main event, Chris Jericho challenges Triple H for the WWE title in a champion versus champion matchup. The Game is once again on top of the WWE, and once again holding the greatest target on his back as well. Being Intercontinental Champion alone isn't enough for Jericho either. In this battle of 2 supreme egos, only one could remain unscathed. After an intense battle, it was Triple H to retain his world title in this contest after hitting the pedigree. It's time to see what SmackDown's got going on. Rey Mysterio and Batista are continuing a successful tag team title run, and there's a serious power struggle between Edge, John Cena, Randy Orton, and King Booker, which would begin resolution at Judgment Day. Opening up this SmackDown pay-per-view, we've got The Miz taking on the Great Khali. The ever-confident superstar The Miz placed an open challenge for Judgment Day with intentions to impress Michelle McCool. However, it was the Great Khali who would answer the call and utterly obliterate the young loudmouth. The tag team champions, Rey Mysterio and Batista, had their hands full when they faced Chris Masters and United States champion Carlito, with the gold on the line. Despite the challenge, Batista and Rey are victorious and retain their championships. Mr. Kennedy, Johnny Nitro, and Shelton Benjamin compete in a ladder match to determine the #1 contender for the US title. In a hectic contest, Shelton Benjamin comes down as the new #1 contender. Randy Orton and John Cena were trapped in a steel cage, and this match would help shape the world title picture heading into the Great American Bash. Both men are itching to place themselves back into the main event scene, and they laid it all on the line in this steel cage encounter. To no real surprise, it was John Cena from 2007 to emerge triumphant in this contest. And to close out the show, we've got Edge versus King Booker for the World Heavyweight title. These two juggernauts both have a common goal of representing SmackDown as its world champion, a coveted distinction fit for only one superstar. Both of these competitors place so much value in being champion, but something's gotta give. In the end, it was King Booker the one to walk away still champion. Back on ECW, opening up One Night Stand, we've got Terry Funk and Mick Foley in a hardcore match. Funk and Foley came to issue after Funk did not appreciate Foley's eagerness for The Undertaker to challenge for the ECW title a little over a month ago. Both men were willing to push their bodies to the limit and endure unthinkable pain to prove once and for all who the true hardcore icon is. The match was a brutal affair with weapons strewn around the ring, with both men leaving everything they had in the arena. In the end, Foley managed to eke out a victory. Ric Flair has still been dealing with disrespect amongst some of the younger talent in the locker room. He once again goes to battle at this pay-per-view event, this time against Kevin Thorne in a first blood match. After bludgeoning one another, it was Ric Flair able to bust Thorne open and walk away the winner. In the next matchup, Marcus Corvon and Mark Henry meet in a powerhouse showdown to determine who the true powerhouse of ECW is. The match is a display of pure strength and brute force, with neither man willing to back down an inch. In the end, Mark Henry's sheer size and strength proved to be too much for Marcus Corvon to handle, as Henry overpowers him and secures the victory. Rob Van Dam taking on Sabu. RVD and Sabu are two of the most iconic names in ECW history, known for their high-flying, risk-taking styles. Despite their mutual respect for one another, there has always been an underlying competitive edge between them, as both men vie for the title of ECW's Ultimate Daredevil. RVD and Sabu square off in a #1 contenders contest that promised to be a showcase of extreme athleticism and jaw-dropping maneuvers. The match is a back-and-forth affair, with both men pulling out all the stops to outdo one another. In the end, it's Rob Van Dam who manages to hit the 5-star frog splash for the win, solidifying his status as ECW's top high flyer. And in the main event, Elijah Burke versus The Undertaker for the ECW Championship. Elijah Burke has been on an attention-grabbing rise in ECW, earning the right to challenge for the ECW Championship and establishing himself as a critical piece to the brand's future. Meanwhile, this challenge is no easy feat. The ECW champion, The Undertaker, that felt weird, stands in front of him. And not only would he stand in front of him, but he would absolutely take down the cocky youngster and walk away still ECW champion. Heading into Vengeance, CM Punk gets a victory over the Boogeyman in singles competition, and then calls out Umaga and challenges him to a match at Vengeance. Armando Estrada accepts on Umaga's behalf. Candice Michelle defeats Mickie James to become the new women's champion on an episode of Raw. And before we head into Vengeance, if you're enjoying the video, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel to ensure more content like this continues to get produced. I'd love to hear what kind of situations you'd like to see in the future. Thanks. Vengeance opens up with women's competition between Mickie James, Melina, and Candice Michelle for the women's title. It hadn't been long since Candice had won the title on Raw, but she's got to be ready for a tough task ahead. Unfortunately for her, it is Melina who comes away as the new women's champion. The Hardy Boys taking on Kane and Big Show for the World Tag Team titles. In a rematch from an epic encounter on Raw just a few weeks ago, the Hardys get their chance at redemption as they challenge Kane and Big Show for the Tag Team Championships. The match is filled with high-flying action and power moves, but ultimately, the Hardy Boys managed to claim the titles after hitting a combination of the Twist of Fate and the Swanton Bomb on Big Show. CM Punk seeks redemption as he goes head-to-head with Umaga in a highly personal grudge match. Despite Umaga's brute strength, Punk refuses to back down and unleashes a barrage of strikes and high-flying maneuvers. In a shocking upset, CM Punk manages to pick up the victory with a well-executed GTS, finally overcoming the Samoan Bulldozer. Up next, Chris Jericho defends his Intercontinental title against MVP in an extremely competitive match. Both are formidable competitors that have been performing extremely well, but there can only be one Intercontinental champion. The desire to call themselves champion was apparent as both men were prepared with an offensive arsenal to give them the best chance for victory. In the end, MVP was able to catch Jericho with an unexpected schoolboy pin to earn himself the Intercontinental Championship. And in the main event of Vengeance, Triple H defends the WWE title in a triple threat against Shawn Michaels and Bobby Lashley in a grueling steel cage match. Three superstars confined confined in a steel cage and within reach of the World Championship. Due to the close proximity to one another, this match was extremely volatile, and even though DX was in the ring together, there were no true allegiances at play when the WWE title was at stake. Triple H was intent on retaining the championship, but his adversaries were just as focused on capturing the glory for themselves. Triple H was ready to begin his descent to the floor, but Bobby Lashley was able to bring him down before victory was reached, and capitalized as he got his ass out of that cage and got his new championship belt fitted as Vengeance came to an end. Back on Smackdown, Gregory Helms captures the Cruiserweight title from Johnny Nitro, and John Cena confirmed his status as #1 contender after a victory over Edge and Rey Mysterio. The Miz takes on Mr. Kennedy in another attempt to impress Michelle McCool. While it wasn't looking good for The Miz in this encounter, Miz had somehow convinced the Great Khali to assist him and create an avenue to capture the victory in a strange sequence of events. Johnny Nitro recaptures the Cruiserweight Championship against Gregory Helms, and Shelton Benjamin challenges Carlito for the United States title. Shelton Benjamin put on a phenomenal showing off an exceptional skill set of wrestling acumen and athleticism. Carlito put up a fight, but not much of one, as a new United States champion was crowned. Rated RKO challenges Rey and Batista for the tag team titles, and it's quite a tall task as Rey and Batista have been seemingly unstoppable. But Batista abandons Rey just as he's looking for a tag, and Rated RKO took advantage of their opportunity and became new tag team champions. In the main event of the Great American Bash, John Cena captured the World Heavyweight Championship from King Booker in a back-and-forth contest. On our way to SummerSlam, Mickie James reclaims the Women's Championship after defeating Melina, and CM Punk earns a WWE title shot against Bobby Lashley after defeating Triple H on Raw. RVD defeated ECW champion The Undertaker to be named #1 contender at SummerSlam. And on SmackDown, Edge defeats his own tag team partner to earn a title match at SummerSlam, and just a week later, Edge would attack Cena in the parking lot to give himself an advantage going into the pay-per-view. To kick off SummerSlam, we've got Batista versus Rey Mysterio in a Falls Count Anywhere match. Former friends, former tag team champions square off in a very personal contest. Batista turned his back on Rey Mysterio, and we're beginning to see a different side to the animal that hasn't been seen in years. While the difference in size and strength is staggering, Rey Mysterio has a knack for hanging with even the fiercest competitors. With every move Rey was able to put on Batista, the animal would answer with heavy-handed strikes, but Rey kept coming back and kept absorbing the malice-filled punishment from his former friend. Eventually, Rey caught Batista slipping, turned things around, hit the 619, and pulled off what most would consider an upset victory. The Intercontinental title was on the line in a ladder match as Shawn Michaels and Chris Jericho challenged MVP. There was never a moment to rest in this fast-paced match, each competitor coming at the other with aggressiveness and the determination to be the Intercontinental Champion. Y2J and HBK are former champions in their own right, but they know if they can possess that title, they've got a clear path back into the main event scene. While each man gave it their all, it was Chris Jericho who refused to release the belt from his clutches to become the new Intercontinental Champion. Coming up next, Rob Van Dam challenges The Undertaker for the ECW title in a barn buster of a match. The Undertaker has been dominating ECW, but RVD has got a pinfall victory over the champion under his belt from just a few weeks ago, and RVD proved that he could hang with the dead man and push the champion to his limit with a 5-star frog splash. Although this is The Undertaker we're talking about here, boys, and the dead man ain't going down that easy. Ultimately, The Undertaker would lay RVD to rest and retain his championship. CM Punk faces Bobby Lashley for the WWE title in a battle of two stars who have been churning out momentum. CM Punk has been rolling through potential contenders, and I couldn't tell you the last time we saw Bobby Lashley take a loss. Bobby Lashley would display his raw power and athleticism in a victory over CM Punk by submission. And our SummerSlam main event consists of Edge taking on John Cena in a TLC match for the World Heavyweight title. This classic rivalry is reignited as they are once again meeting in a TLC match for the World Championship. There was no love lost between these two, and they were willing to do whatever it took to take home the gold. Things looked to be going Cena's way when he sent Edge through a table, but the Rated R superstar had endured worse before and kept pushing. Edge eventually went low enough times to completely deplete the will to continue to fight from John Cena, and just like that, a new World Heavyweight Champion was crowned. If you're familiar with these videos, you would know that we have to implement some kind of shakeup post SummerSlam. Thanks to the community for your input and ideas to make this shakeup more interesting. And the move is going to be to release every current world champion, vacating the titles in the process, and sending them to another brand. brand. In addition, each brand will also be able to sign a legend to their roster. This means Edge, The Undertaker, and Bobby Lashley have all been relocated, and Bret Hart, The Rock, and Stone Cold Steve Austin have now entered the fold. This also leaves the ChatGPT GMs with a decision to make regarding their vacant world championships. On our way to Unforgiven, Triple H and Shawn Michaels make it to the finals of a WWE title tournament and will meet at the pay-per-view to crown a new champion. Opening up the night, Jeff Hardy versus Chris Jericho for the Intercontinental title in a Falls Count Anywhere match. In a thrilling opening contest, both competitors push each other to the limit, knowing what's at stake. With Hardy's daredevil style clashing against Jericho's technical prowess, these two left the fans on the edge of their seats, and as both stars proved themselves worthy of the championship, in the end, Jeff Hardy was able to force Jericho to submit, securing the victory to become the new Intercontinental Champion, albeit in surprising fashion. In the next match, we've got two former champions very familiar with one another. Mickie James defends her women's championship against the cunning Melina in a hard-fought battle. Melina employed her underhanded tactics to gain the advantage, but Mickie James refused to back down. However, Melina's devious ways couldn't be contained, and she would end the title reign of Mickie James and once again capture the title for herself. Triple H versus Shawn Michaels for the vacant WWE Championship. These two need no introduction to one another, as their storied past once again came to head as the finals of the WWE title tournament featured the two D-Generation X members. The match was a brutal back and forth affair that saw the two men give everything they had on this night. Triple H had beaten the Hot Break Kid into a bloody mess, but that still wouldn't hold down the showstopper. Shawn Michaels had pushed himself beyond what anybody would expect, but it still wasn't enough, as with the help of the pedigree, Triple H secured yet another world championship. In the Unforgiven main event, ChatGPT is hosting an elimination chamber to determine the #1 contender at Cyber Sunday, featuring Kane, CM Punk, Big Show, Umaga, and the two newest Raw acquisitions, Bret Hart and The Undertaker. Competitors were eliminated, and before we knew it, it had come down to The Undertaker and Umaga. These two monsters had already endured more than most have to withstand, but to earn the #1 contendership, they have to go through one more man. Ultimately, The Undertaker emerged victorious in his first pay-per-view appearance back on Raw, and will meet the WWE Champion at Cyber Sunday. Heading into the next ECW pay-per-view, we've got Mark Henry versus Sabu. Henry and Sabu had been having issues and confrontations over the past few weeks, but Henry showed up with a dominating victory here. Ric Flair's feuding with the younger ECW talent continues here as he teams up with ECW original, The Sandman. The two veterans were prepared to teach the young stars a lesson in this tag team match, but Elijah Burke and Kevin Thorne overcame the resistance from Flair and Sandman and came away with the tag team victory. ChatGPT declared a battle royal to be held for the vacant ECW championship now that The Undertaker is no longer residing in the land of extreme. It had come down to Mick Foley and Stone Cold Steve Austin, two icons in their own right, but it would be Mrs. Foley's baby boy who would be able to call himself the new ECW champion. Inching closer to No Mercy, an unhinged Batista brutally attacked Rey Mysterio and heinously threw him off of a fire truck in a parking lot. His rage would ensue over the coming weeks, as shown by his attacks on The Miz and John Cena after their matches. Batista claims his path of destruction will not end until he becomes world champion. And new WWE Tag Team Champions are crowned on Smackdown after John Cena and Johnny Nitro defeat Gregory Helms and Kenny Dykstra for the vacant tag team titles. To kick off No Mercy, Johnny Nitro defends his Cruiserweight Championship in a ladder match against Chavo Guerrero and Carlito. This was an electrifying match that saw the three men put their bodies on the line to establish themselves as the top cruiserweight in the company. Johnny Nitro was determined to retain his title, but he had two hungry competitors looking to take his place. The end result? Carlito was the new champion, and the Cruiserweight division just got a whole lot cooler. Jamie Noble and The Miz have been at odds over the last few weeks, with their issues centralizing around Michelle McCool. The Miz has got the girl, and he's also got the giant known as the Great Khali backing him up. The unrelenting amount of confidence possessed by The Miz might just get him the victory alone in this quote, one-on-one, no DQ matchup. Jamie Noble put up a fight, but ultimately got bullied and humiliated by The Miz and company. King Booker challenges Shelton Benjamin for the United States Championship in our next match. The Gold Standard recently won the title at the Great American Bash and has been on a roll ever since. King Booker, the former World Heavyweight Champion, has been slipping in the rankings and is looking to reclaim some gold to help get himself back on track to the main event. Benjamin had been successful when competing against the mid-card of SmackDown, but he's competing against main eventers now. Booker was certainly different to any of Benjamin's previous challengers, but Benjamin didn't back down. Booker nearly had the championship won, but Benjamin was able to stick around long enough to find his opportunity to seal the match and retain his title. And to end No Mercy, SmackDown gets its turn at an Elimination Chamber. This time, for the vacant World Heavyweight Championship left by Edge. Rey Mysterio and John Cena began the match, and various former world champions awaited to join them. Bobby Lashley was carrying a ton of momentum as he was the WWE Champion before getting shipped to SmackDown, so much so he was able to eliminate The Rock from the match. Batista was able to get a measure of revenge when he eliminated Rey Mysterio from the matchup as well. John Cena was eliminated, and it was down to Batista and Bobby Lashley. After what was an intense battle, Batista was the one to stand tall and become the new World Heavyweight Champion in an absolutely star-studded matchup. Cyber Sunday opened up with Bret Hart vs CM Punk in a submission match. The seeds for this match were planted when CM Punk began to openly challenge the Raw roster in attempts to save face after his loss at SummerSlam. Bret Hart, taking offense to Punk's brash attitude, was aiming to teach Punk a lesson in respect and humility. The match was voted to be a submission match, showcasing both men's mastery of technical wrestling and submission holds. CM Punk would ultimately end up submitting to the Hitman. World Tag Team Champions Crime Time, determined to prove themselves as worthy champions, step up to challenge Jericho and Big Show for the tag team titles in a tables match. They present a formidable challenge for the up-and-coming Crime Time, and actually capture the tag team titles for themselves. Shawn Michaels is voted to challenge Jeff Hardy for the Intercontinental title. Since becoming champion, Jeff Hardy has had a massive target on his back. Shawn Michaels, one of the most impressive performers in the WWE today, set the title in his sights. Jeff Hardy, who believes he is ready to take his career to the next level by enhancing the already prestigious title, did not back down from the challenge. Both men have a history of delivering show-stealing performances, and their clash for the Intercontinental title promises to be no different, and in the end, Jeff Hardy was able to surprise HBK with a quick roll-up to secure the victory and the title. Melina defends the Women's Championship against Tori Wilson. Tori Wilson faces an uphill battle against the devious tactics of the champion Melina, and the women's title match becomes a clash of styles and personalities, with Melina the one to emerge victorious. And in the Cyber Sunday main event, The Undertaker and Triple H for the WWE title in a Falls Count Anywhere match. The Undertaker looked to claim the WWE Championship after a dominant reign of terror over on ECW. However, Triple H, the cunning and calculating cerebral assassin, sees an opportunity to solidify himself as not just the top guy on Raw, but the top dog in all of the WWE, the title he believes is rightfully his already. Their clash at the pay-per-view became a battle of wills and endurance, with the fate of the WWE Championship hanging in the balance. When the smoke cleared, there was a new WWE Champion, The Undertaker. Ahead of Survivor Series, the Intercontinental title changed hands on an episode of Raw after Matt Hardy defeated his brother Jeff. And opening up Survivor Series, Shelton Benjamin defends his United States Championship in a fatal four-way against Randy Orton, Rey Mysterio, and King Booker. This match was flooded with star power, which enhanced the unpredictability of this match. While Benjamin has been a formidable champion, this is by far his toughest task yet. While any of these guys could walk out as champion, it was King Booker who would add insult to injury and defeat Benjamin with a T-bone suplex. Edge, Mick Foley, and Rob Van Dam competed in a TLC match for the ECW Championship. There were variables at play that favored each man in their own way, and none of these guys are the type to hold anything back, especially when the stakes are so high. A champion was crowned after RVD was able to secure the victory. Batista is set to defend the World Heavyweight Championship. This match was originally planned to feature Batista defending against Bobby Lashley. However, The Rock strong-armed Bobby and would eventually take his place in the main event. And in his place, The Rock, determined as ever, would walk away from this night as the new World Heavyweight Champion. And to main event the evening, Raw opted into hosting a traditional-style elimination tag team match involving the WWE Champion The Undertaker on one end and his contender Triple H on the other. It was a hectic bout. D-Generation X and CM Punk were causing problems for the opposing team, and they dominated on their way to a clean sweep victory to end the night. To open up ECW's final pay-per-view of the calendar year, Snitsky defeated Marcus Corvan in a heated contest, and Edge gained a bit of momentum after a big victory over the world's strongest man, Mark Henry. Two Extreme icons, Sabu and Sandman, squared off in a no-holds-barred match. Chaos is ensured when these two have free reign to weapons, underhanded tactics, and any other kind of shenanigans you could imagine. Ultimately, it was a bloody Sandman who came out victorious. Next match, Last Man Standing. In the weeks leading up to this event, tensions between Elijah Burke and Terry Funk escalated, with Funk attempting to impart wisdom and respect onto Burke, only to be met with defiance and disdain. Burke saw Funk as a relic of the past, while Funk viewed Burke as a disrespectful newcomer who needed to be taught a lesson. Enraged by Burke's disrespect, Terry Funk challenged him to a last man standing match. The two held nothing back, and after unrelentlessly beating on one another, Elijah Burke eventually kept Terry Funk down for the 10 count. In the main event, Mick Foley and Stone Cold Steve Austin challenged ECW champion Rob Van Dam for the gold. It was a tall task for sure, but RVD wasn't going to shy away from the competition. All three men had made an impact in this one. Mick Foley, a former ECW champion, isn't easy to beat and had been fighting for #1 contendership for the past few months. You bring the Texas Rattlesnake Steve Austin back into ECW? It was an exciting match, but there could only be one champion, and that champion would emerge as Stone Cold Steve Austin. Over at Armageddon, The Miz challenges Carlito for the Cruiserweight Championship. The Miz has been riding high since his relationship with Michelle McCool and maybe more notably, his alliance with the Great Khali. I still don't know how that came to be, but it's a good strategy on the part of The Miz. However, just because The Miz is feeling himself does not mean that Carlito is going to be content with handing over the Cruiserweight Championship. However, Carlito shouldn't have to fight a handicap match to defend his title. Ultimately, The Miz snakes his way into becoming the Cruiserweight Champion. Rey Mysterio challenges King Booker in a TLC match for the United States Championship. Ever since Rey's split with Batista, he has been looking for a way to get his name back in the main event. While the US title may not get him there alone, it's a good start. King Booker is still hoping to grasp onto relevance as his issues have only seemed to grow since becoming champion. It was a back and forth contest, and TLC matches always provide great moments. This moment was particularly great for Mysterio, as he picked up the victory and became the new US champion. Kelly had been disgusted in Michelle McCool by the way she had been conducting herself since pairing up with The Miz. So much so, she felt the need to take issue and challenge McCool to a match at Armageddon with Jamie Noble in her corner. McCool was of course accompanied by the new Cruiserweight champion, The Miz. When it was all said and done, Kelly was able to get some of those frustrations out on Michelle McCool. Randy Orton and Batista challenged the tag team champions John Cena and Johnny Nitro. Orton and Batista have been facing extreme frustrations as of late, and the former Evolution members have decided to band together again to help themselves get back on track. This will be easier said than done when facing the dynamic duo of Big Match John and Big Match Johnny, and the frustrations of Orton and Batista continue as they fail to get the job done here. In our Armageddon main event, Bobby Lashley is seeking vengeance on the World Heavyweight Champion, The Rock. After Rocky did Lashley dirty by strong-arming and politicking his way into what should have been Lashley's title shot, this dream match between the absolute powerhouse that is Bobby Lashley and the most electrifying man in sports entertainment did not disappoint. Bobby Lashley pushed the Great One to the limit, and it became clear why he had held on to the WWE Championship as long as he did over on Raw. Although, The Rock came prepared, and he was not going to make it easy on Lashley, as he had no intentions of relinquishing the title. The Rock hit the people's elbow, and the victory was near. Bobby Lashley was not going down that easily though, and pushed back with aggressive resistance. Lashley was able to create an opportunity and land to dominate on the Great One, and we may have a new champion. The Rock wouldn't back down either, and would ultimately hit a rock bottom on Lashley to retain the World Heavyweight title. Leading up to New Year's Revolution, Matt Hardy defended his Intercontinental title against CM Punk and Tag Team Champion Chris Jericho. Hardy was unsuccessful and CM Punk became the new champ. Jericho would not appreciate this and would ultimately attack the new champion weeks later backstage. And at the pay-per-view, Chris Jericho and Big Show defended their tag team titles against CM Punk and a partner of his choosing, which would end up being Matt Hardy. This is the first of two matches to feature Punk and Jericho, as they'll be facing for the Intercontinental title later in the evening. Jericho is happy to allow Big Show to deal the majority of the damage before Jericho swoops in for the pin on their way to a successful title defense, keeping Jericho fresh for his match later while CM Punk seemed to be in bad shape. Ashley challenges Melina for the Women's Championship. Melina had been on quite the streak as of late, and that will continue as she handily picks up the victory over Ashley. The next matchup features two legends, Shawn Michaels and Kane, as they square off in a singles match. With both superstars looking to make a statement at the start of the new year, this match was sure to be filled with intensity. Kane's a hard-hitting powerhouse, and Shawn Michaels always knows how to put on a show. This was evident in this matchup as the two gave everything they had. Ultimately, it was Shawn Michaels who walked away the victor. Chris Jericho challenges CM Punk for the Intercontinental title in their second matchup against one another this evening. Jericho was able to remain tag team champion against CM Punk earlier, but can Jericho score the pinfall or submission to take the Intercontinental title away from him? CM Punk would ultimately take it to Y2J and stick it out, retaining his Intercontinental title. And the main event of New Year's Revolution consists of a fatal 4-way elimination match, where The Undertaker must defend against 4 solid main eventers in Bret Hart, Jeff Hardy, and Triple H. All 4 of these men are legends in their own right, and if the challengers could pry the championship from The Undertaker, that would certainly add another accomplishment to their lists of many. The Undertaker consistently seems to be thrown into these multi-man matches, but he seems unfazed. Bret Hart was eliminated first from a tombstone, and just after Triple H hit a pedigree on Jeff Hardy, Hardy shocked the game and caught him with a roll-up that would eliminate Triple H. Jeff Hardy was in bad shape though, and The Undertaker would easily take advantage and eliminate his final adversary. We've made it to the Royal Rumble, and Jamie Noble and Kelly Kelly will team up to take down the brash couple in The Miz and Michelle McCool. Cruiserweight champion The Miz and Michelle McCool have been absolute menaces since The Miz was able to capture the gold at Armageddon. Noble and Kelly Kelly have stood up against the annoying couple, but Miz and McCool would hold nothing back on their way to victory here. Rob Van Dam is challenging for the ECW Championship against Stone Cold Steve Austin. Ever since coming back to ECW, Steve Austin has been an unstoppable machine, and as usual, doing things the way he wants to do them. While Rob Van Dam is incredibly talented and would pose a threat to any champion, Austin continues to do much of the same as he retains his world championship. Up next, Bret Hart challenged The Undertaker for the WWE Championship in a Hell in a Cell match. Taking it back to the 90s with this matchup, The Undertaker has faced many different challengers, but nobody with the technical acumen the Hitman possesses. However, technicality will only get you so far in this unforgiving structure, and the dead man knows that. The Undertaker took Bret Hart to the limits and truly challenged the excellence of execution. In the end, The Undertaker once again stands tall, still world champion. More politicking from The Rock, and The Rock has been doing whatever he can to remove Bobby Lashley from the title picture. To gain entry into the Royal Rumble, Bobby Lashley must defeat Randy Orton and Batista in a handicap match. The Rock promised Orton and Batista a potential shot at the title at No Way Out if they could eliminate Lashley, and that was just the thing the two were looking for. However, the egos of Orton and Batista had finally imploded after just a short alliance, and Randy Orton hit Batista with an RKO, which allowed Lashley to take advantage of the now evened odds and will in fact take part of the Royal Rumble. And it's time for the Rumble. Kicking off with Sabu and Triple H as number 1 and number 2. Superstars would come and go, but it would ultimately come down to the surprising final 2 of Elijah Burke and Umaga. And when the dust had settled, we've got a Samoan bulldozer headlining WrestleMania. Opening up the show at No Way Out, Jamie Noble challenges The Miz for the Cruiserweight Championship. It's been a long few months between Noble and The Miz always seems to be the one who comes out on top. Noble is determined to change this, though this is his final chance to do so. If he loses, he will not be able to challenge The Miz again, title or not. Despite his obnoxiousness, The Miz has been improving and performing well. In a hard-fought contest, Jamie Noble is finally able to overcome the bully that is The Miz and achieve the Cruiserweight Championship. Mr. Kennedy and Carlito are challenging John Cena and Johnny Nitro for the WWE Tag Team Championships in our next match. This was an exciting contest that saw the protagonists from our 2 story mode series come together to challenge the Big Match Johns. Cena and Nitro have been a formidable tag team not just in this universe, but in another as well, so their reputation is established. And rightfully so, as they are able to come away with the win here and retain their tag team titles. Bobby Lashley faces yet another obstacle in his way by way of former world champion King Booker. Booker is down bad as he is on quite the downward skid and is acting in favor of the current world champion, The Rock, to deter Bobby Lashley from the title picture as much as possible. If Lashley takes a loss here, his dreams of contention are dead. However, he comes through in the clutch by defeating King Booker and setting his sights on the champ. The Animal Batista and Randy Orton square off to settle their differences. The two men once had each other's back, but that has again fizzled into bitterness, and considering both of these men are on severe losing streaks, there is a silver lining here. Somebody's getting a victory. After an intense match, Batista stands tall. While The Rock has had Bobby Lashley hot on his trail, he has still got to get through the main event against Rey Mysterio, and there is absolutely no guarantee he walks out of this arena as champion. Rey, the current United States champion, has been determined all throughout this exercise, and becoming world champion just before WrestleMania would be the cherry on top. Rey's quickness is hard to handle for anybody, even a bona fide legend like The Rock. Rey dominated this thing from the jump and seemed to be making light work of the current champion. Hitting a 619, it was in the bag, but not quite. Rocky would catch Rey, take control of the match, and slow down the pace to a tempo more favorable for the champ. Rocky thought he had his problem solved, but Rey was making another push. He just wouldn't go down. It took a rock bottom to keep Rey down, and for The Rock to keep his championship, ending the night. The final ECW pay-per-view opened up with a hectic 3-team, 6-man hardcore tornado tag team match. According to ChatGPT, this would be for the ECW tag team titles, though I think it's a little unaware of its limitations in that aspect. Colin Delaney makes his first pay-per-view debut, so that is rather notable. Otherwise, this match is just controlled chaos and eventually won by Elijah Burke and Kevin Thorne. Stone Cold Steve Austin defeats Marcus Corvon in a non-title match after Corvon issued the challenge backstage. And Edge met the big ugly bastard Gene Snitsky in a steel cage match. Physical punishment is a given in this match as Snitsky has been on quite the hot streak as of late. However, Edge doesn't give a damn what kind of streak Snitsky has been on, as Edge starts off the match all over this big ugly bastard and gives little to no breathing room. Snitsky does fend off the rated R superstar, but only minimally and only for a moment. Edge delivers some gut-wrenching blows to Gene's little Snitskys, and with haste, gets his ass out of that cage. Mick Foley and Terry Funk find themselves once again waging war on one another. These two know how to put on the most brutal of matches, and they didn't disappoint to put on a show in the final ECW pay-per-view of the exercise. Terry Funk had beaten Mick Foley to a pulp, but in classic Foley fashion, Mick kept on coming. Foley had to channel his true inner Cactus Jack to pull this one out, because Terry Funk was prepared to throw more weapons in Mick's face at every opportunity. Terry Funk brought out the heat when he lit a 2x4 on fire, but Mick had his tactics to get even ready. As the flaming table came to play, Funk went down, and Foley limped away with the victory. Umaga winning the Royal Rumble was such an unexpected outcome, even ChatGPT didn't believe it. After some serious convincing, the main event was determined. Umaga is to put up his WrestleMania title match on the line against the face of ECW himself, Rob Van Dam. RVD was prepared to head into WrestleMania to challenge the world champion, but taking anything from Umaga is much easier said than done. RVD came out of the gate hot, but Umaga is a very large man and can withstand a lot of damage. Once Umaga was able to get on the offensive, you could see RVD's hope and WrestleMania aspirations dwindling. When all was said and done, Umaga had confirmed his place at WrestleMania with a victory over Rob Van Dam. Going into WrestleMania, let's take a look at the fan support. ECW's roster may be smaller, but they've got multiple 100 popularity superstars. This thing is close, but we've got to determine a winner, and that will be chosen at the end of this night. WrestleMania opened up with a couple tri-branded matchups, the first being a 6-man battle royal that would see the Boogeyman surprisingly come out on top over 5 other competitors. Following the battle royal, we've got a triple threat featuring a superstar from each brand. Rob Van Dam, Shelton Benjamin, and The Big Show competed until it was Shelton Benjamin to be the one standing tall. The ECW title was on the line in the next match, featuring the Royal Rumble winner Umaga and the champion Stone Cold Steve Austin. Since coming over to Tuesday nights, Umaga had been doing damage on the ECW brand as of late, and came out of the gate just as aggressive as he had been. Stone Cold had been nearly unbeatable since his return, so the momentum of winning the Royal Rumble might be just what Umaga needs to tackle the Texas Rattlesnake. Umaga had found success with his overpowering style, and hit Austin with the Samoan spike. Austin wouldn't give up though. He found life and hit the Stone Cold Stunner, which would secure his ECW championship. Raw was up next on the WrestleMania card. As longtime rivals within these ChatGPT videos, The Undertaker and Triple H once again faced off with the glory on the line, the WWE Championship. Taker had been dominant all year, but the Game is also a former champion and has consistently placed himself in the front of the line of title opportunities. The Undertaker is still looking to remain undefeated at the grandest stage of them all, but Triple H will do any and everything in his power to finally put the blemish on the Undertaker's WrestleMania streak. Both men made attempts to end the match, but neither would give in. This battle waged on for over 30 minutes, and it was a true test of determination and durability as the two men contributed admirable performances, but there was going to be a loser in this matchup. The Undertaker would finally end up hitting a tombstone piledriver, which would hand him victory, retaining his WWE Championship and keeping that streak intact. And to end the night and main event WrestleMania, the World Heavyweight Championship was on the line as Bobby Lashley had finally crossed all obstacles to once again challenge The Rock. This time, Hell in a Cell. Not only did The Rock politic his way into Bobby Lashley's World Championship opportunities months ago, but he also took the main event away from the Royal Rumble winner. Regardless, this match was an epic clash of two huge competitors. The Rock's larger-than-life aura and Bobby Lashley's hard-nosed discipline certainly contrasted and made for an intense encounter. The fight spilled onto the top of the cell, and we all know absolutely nothing good ever comes from being on top of this structure. The Rock sent Bobby Lashley down the cage, and all the Great One had to do was hook the leg to retain, but Lashley immaculately kicked out. There is no quit in this man. The Rock isn't going to give up momentum easily though, as he keeps his foot on the neck of Bobby Lashley. Lashley eventually pushed back and creates enough separation to hit the Dominator, collect the 1-2-3, and walk out of WrestleMania as the World Heavyweight Champion. What a year it has been. And as we move beyond WrestleMania, it's time to crown the General Manager of the Year. Humans or ChatGPT? Fortunately, we are able to get away with the victory here once again this year, giving us the series win of 2-1. Thank you everybody for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Take it easy.